$53,740,394. That is what one woman stole from a town of 16,000 people over 22 years, from a desk 3 doors down from the mayor's office. Her name was Rita Crundwell. She was the Comptroller of Dixon, Illinois. She had held the job for 29 years. The people of Dixon trusted her with every dollar that moved through their city: payroll, road repairs, police salaries, water bills, snow plowing, pension contributions for the firefighters who would one day retire. All of it passed through her hands. And for more than 2 decades, quietly, methodically, while everyone she worked with smiled at her in the hallway and asked about her weekend, she was stealing it. Not in some single dramatic moment, not in a panic, not under pressure. The court record shows a pattern that investigators would later describe as methodical. Small amounts at first, growing steadily. Always the same mechanism, never once drawing attention. Until the money she redirected was not going to sewer infrastructure at all. It was going to 400 American quarter horses, a $2 million motorhome, diamond jewelry, real estate in 3 states, and 8 consecutive titles as the AQHA's World Champion Breeder of the Year. Meanwhile, in the town she was bleeding dry, the streets cracked. The police department went without raises. The fire trucks aged. Public employees were laid off. And nobody knew. For 22 years, nobody knew. The discovery, when it finally came, did not come from the FBI. It did not come from the bank. It did not come from the auditors who had signed off on the city's books year after year after year. It came from one phone call on one Tuesday in October of 2011. A phone call Rita Crundwell did not know was happening because she was on vacation. This is the story of how a single woman sitting at a small desk in a small town became the largest municipal embezzler in American history, and the story of how the people who trusted her paid for every cent. Dixon, Illinois. Population 16,000. The town that raised Ronald Reagan. It is the kind of town where public servants are not strangers, they are neighbors. In fact, just months before the arrest, a city commissioner praised Rita Crundwell in a public meeting. He said on the record that she looks after every tax dollar as if it were her own. Those words are in the minutes of the meeting. He believed them when he said them. So did everyone else. That was Rita Crundwell. She started working for the city of Dixon in 1970. She was 17 years old. She took a part-time job in City Hall and never left. By 1983, she was the Comptroller, the single most powerful financial position in municipal government. By the mid-1990s, she also held the title of Treasurer. For 29 years, she signed every check. She reconciled every bank statement. She prepared every budget. She sat in every council meeting and explained to the mayor, a different mayor every few years, exactly how much money the city had and exactly where it was going. The mayors trusted her completely. She knew the books better than anyone alive. She was efficient. She was pleasant. She was always at her desk by 7 in the morning. She raised quarter horses on a small farm outside of town, and she would sometimes bring photos to work. Full pictures, show ribbons. The mayor's wife asked about them. People smiled. She was, by every public measure, a model municipal employee. Loyal, quiet, reliable. And nobody noticed that the comptroller of a small Midwestern town, a town with a tight budget and an aging fleet of municipal vehicles, was traveling the country in a private motorhome worth more than most homes in Dixon. That she owned a ranch outside the city limits with hundreds of horses on it, that she spent her summers competing at championship-level horse shows where the entry fees alone cost more than a city worker's monthly salary. She was the person everyone trusted with the money, so nobody asked where her money came from. That was the fault line. There were warnings. There were always warnings. In 1990, 2 years before she opened the secret account that would change everything, the city of Dixon began running into chronic budget shortfalls. Council meetings turned into arguments over which department would lose funding next. The streets needed repair. The police needed equipment. The senior center needed staffing. Each year, the mayor would ask the same question: where's the money going? And each year, Rita Crundwell, the woman who knew the books, would explain that the state had cut funding, that federal grants had dried up, that property tax receipts had come in lower than expected, that the recession was difficult. She was always ready with an answer, always patient, always specific. Nobody questioned it. In 2006, an outside auditor noticed something strange: a single municipal account at Fifth Third Bank labeled Reserve Sewer Capital Development Account. The acronym was RSCDA. The auditor asked about it. Crundwell explained that it was a holding account for capital improvement funds, sewer infrastructure, long-term project reserves. The auditor wrote it down. The auditor moved on. The auditor did not pull the statements. In 2010, the city's longtime auditing firm, a regional CPA practice, was acquired by a larger national firm, Clifton Larson Allen. The new firm inherited the existing audit procedures. They reviewed what the previous firm had reviewed. Nobody pulled the RSCDA statements. In 2011, a financial advisor in Dixon noticed that Rita Crundwell was bidding aggressively at horse auctions, buying animals priced at $50,000, $60,000, sometimes $100,000 each. He mentioned it to a friend. The friend shrugged. She must have had something. Nobody asked. Nobody pulled the statements. For 21 years, the warnings were all there, visible, documented, sitting in plain sight. Nobody pulled the statements. The mechanism was simple. That was the genius of it. On December 8, 1990, Rita Crundwell walked into Fifth Third Bank in Dixon, Illinois. She opened a new account. She titled it the Reserve Sewer Capital Development Account. She listed the city of Dixon as the account holder. She listed herself as the sole authorized signer. The account was not on the city's books. The mayor did not know it existed. The city council did not know it existed. The auditor of record at that time did not know it existed. It was a city account that only one person could see. For the next 22 years, Rita Crundwell wrote city checks, checks drawn on real Dixon municipal accounts, signed with her authorized signature, and she deposited them into the RSCDA. From the RSCDA, she wrote checks to herself, to her ranch, to her horse breeding operation, to luxury vendors, to car dealerships, to the AQHA. In 1991, she stole $181,000. In 1995, she stole $400,000. In 2000, she stole $1.2 million. 2005, she stole $2.7 million. In 2008, the year of the global financial crisis, the year Dixon laid off public works employees and cut overtime for the police department, she stole $5.5 million. In 2011 alone, she stole $5,818,773. The pattern was always the same. She would draft a fake invoice. She would mark it as a sewer project, a capital improvement, a state grant disbursement. She would code it into the city's accounting software under her own login. She would write the check, she would sign the check, and she would deposit the check into the account that only she could see. And then, on a Tuesday in October 2011, a different woman walked into the bank. A woman who was not Rita Crundwell. Her name was Cathay Swanson, city clerk of Dixon. 26 years on the job, the woman who sat across the hall from Rita Crundwell for most of her career. Rita was on extended vacation, a horse show, out of state, out of reach, the kind of vacation that lasted weeks. While she was gone, Cathay Swanson was tasked with collecting the city's bank statements directly from Fifth Third Bank, a routine errand Crundwell had always handled herself. The bank handed Kath everything, including the statements for an account she had never seen before in 26 years of work, the Reserve Sewer Capital Development account. Cathay Swanson opened the file. She saw the balance. She saw the withdrawals. She saw the checks signed by Rita Crundwell, written to horse ranches, to jewelers, to car dealerships, to Rita Crundwell herself. She closed the file. She went to the mayor. The mayor called the FBI. The FBI confirmed it in 72 hours. 22 years, $53,740,394, 400 horses, one small Midwestern town. The largest municipal embezzlement in the history of the United States. Discovered in the end by a city clerk doing the errand the Comptroller had always done herself. The arrest happened on April 17, 2012. FBI agents walked into Dixon City Hall and led Rita Crundwell out in handcuffs. She was 60 years old. She did not resist. She did not cry. In the months that followed, the people of Dixon, the people she had stolen from for 22 years, were asked to describe what she had taken from them. What they said was not at first about money. A retired police officer named David spoke at the sentencing. He said he had worked for the city for 31 years. He said that during the years Rita Crundwell was buying her motorhome, his patrol unit was driving cars with 200,000 miles on them. He said that he had been told every year that the budget could not accommodate raises for officers, that the city was doing the best it could. He said he had believed her, every year, for 31 years. He said those words into a federal microphone, in a courtroom, in front of the woman who had lied to him. A woman who had worked in the city's public works department for 19 years said she had been laid off in 2009 because of budget cuts. She had been told there was no money. She had lost her health insurance. Her husband had cancer. She said she had spent the next 3 years rebuilding what Rita Crundwell had taken from her family, and she had not known until the arrest that the money had never not been there. The mayor of Dixon and the man who had trusted Crundwell completely said one thing at her sentencing. He said she did not just steal from a town, she stole from neighbors. That was the human damage. It was not the missing road repairs. It was not the aging fire trucks. It was not the unfilled potholes. It was the trust. It was the years. It was the moment, every year for 22 years, when she had looked her neighbors in the eye and told them the money simply was not there. And it was always there. 3 things in the end do not come back. The first, the city of Dixon, Illinois, will never recover the full $53,740,394. The federal government auctioned Rita Crundwell's assets, the horses, the motorhome, the ranch, the jewelry, the real estate. They recovered roughly $10 million at auction. The remaining $43 million was gone, spent, distributed across 2 decades of luxury purchases and breeding fees and competition entries. There is no asset to seize. There is no account to drain. The money simply does not exist anymore. What this means, in practical terms, is that the city of Dixon paid for Rita Crundwell's hobby with services it could not provide, roads that were not paved, officers who were not hired, pensions that were underfunded, equipment that was never replaced. Every one of those deficits is permanent. The years in which those services were not provided cannot be returned. The second, in 2014 and 2015, the city of Dixon filed civil suits against Fifth Third Bank and against Clifton Larson Allen and the previous auditing firm, Janus Card Company. The bank settled for $3,850,000. The auditing firms settled collectively for approximately $35,150,000. Combined with the asset auction, the city recovered roughly $40 million of the $53 million stolen. $40 million sounds like a recovery. It is not. It does not include the legal fees. It does not include the years of litigation. It does not return what was actually lost. The third, Rita Crundwell was sentenced on February 14, 2013, to 19 years and 7 months in federal prison. She served 8.5 years. The town she stole from endured 22. In the years that followed, the state of Illinois passed legislation requiring stricter independent audits of municipal accounts. Some accountants in Illinois refer to it as the Crundwell Rule. Cathy Swanson, the city clerk who found the account, was awarded the FBI Director's Community Leadership Award in 2013. She retired in 2015 after 30 years of service to Dixon. The town survived. The trust did not come back the same way it left. This is what the Rita Crundwell case reveals. It reveals that the largest thefts in American history are not committed by strangers. They are committed by the people we know, the people we trust, the people we wave to in the hallway, the people who have been at the desk for so long that we cannot imagine the building without them. It reveals that the most dangerous person in any organization is not the new hire. It is the long-tenured employee who has been there long enough to know where the questions never get asked. The one who has been there long enough that nobody remembers a time before her. The one who has been there long enough that her presence is mistaken for proof of her integrity. It reveals that the audit, the annual ritual that institutions perform to assure themselves that their money is safe, protects only against the mistakes you already know how to look for. It does not protect against the person who is one step ahead of the question. And it reveals, most quietly of all, that the person you trust most with your money is statistically the person most likely to take it. Not the stranger, not the criminal, the neighbor, the friend, the woman 3 doors down from the mayor's office who has been there since you were a child. The verdict on November 14, 2012 was a guilty plea. Rita Crundwell pled guilty to a single federal count of wire fraud. The sentencing 3 months later was 19 years and 7 months in the Federal Correctional Institution at Waseca, Minnesota. She was 61 years old when she entered the prison. She was 69 when she walked out. The position of Comptroller and Treasurer of Dixon was split into 2 roles with overlapping audit responsibilities. The bank statements are no longer collected by the same person who reconciles them. The only documented statement Rita Crundwell made about restitution came in a letter she wrote while still in prison. She said that any money from interviews or book deals would go first to the city of Dixon. She has not given an interview. She has offered no public explanation for what she did. The court record contains none either. On December 12th, 2024, 11 years after her sentencing, President Joe Biden commuted her sentence. She was among nearly 1,500 nonviolent offenders granted clemency under the CARES Act. The conviction remains on her record. She now lives on her brother's farm in Dixon, Illinois. She served less than half. The town served all 22. The city of Dixon called the commutation a travesty of justice. So here is the question this case leaves behind. If the person who committed the largest municipal theft in American history is allowed to walk free after serving less than half her sentence after a presidential commutation, after the town she stole from called it a travesty of justice, was the punishment ever really about justice? Or was it only ever about the money? There is a voided check somewhere in the federal record, one of the last checks Rita Crundwell wrote before the FBI seized the account. It is one piece of paper in a file in a building, marked void in red ink. It is the only thing in this entire 22-year story that ended exactly the way it should have. President Biden commuted her sentence in December of 2024. If you agree with the city of Dixon that it was not justice, comment no. If you believe justice was served, comment yes. The next file is already open. Subscribe. The next case opens the same way this one did. Quietly, with a name and a number.